What's up guys, Blade Master here with yet another quick battle in Total War Warhammer. I've taken the Dwarves this time and I'm fighting up against the Empire taken by Redcon in the Ancient Dragon Cave. Now, as you can see, this beautiful grudge being dropped onto some of these Empire units. I think these are the Great Swords. I was targeting the Great Swords at the start of this game. The Dwarves are pretty underpowered, and that's because they don't really have great. They have zero cavalry. They don't really have great artillery to make up for their lack of maneuverability. Let's take a look at my dwarf army. It's very different from the dwarf army that I faced against in the last battle. I brought a total of 4 gyrocopters, whom I'm moving up in front because I see that my opponent hasn't brought many missile units, and the missile units that he has are all the way back there. He's got Balthazar Gelt. I've got some gyro bombers with or gyrocopters with brimstone cannons, and they're going to drop some bombs onto the halberds. Halberd line doesn't really do too much damage, actually, the bombs, and on the far side, it looks like Outriders brought by Redcon are firing into some of my miners. My line is basically 3 or 4 miners and 3 or 4 miners with blasting charges. The reason why I brought them is because I see that miners have got a lot of armor piercing damage, but I made the very terrible mistake of falling into the Rome 2 trap of seeing something with great armor piercing and then immediately bringing them. There's a reason why they're cheap, and that's because their melee attack is really low, and so is their melee defense. So they're just pretty shit combatants. So the gyrocopter pouring in some more bombs, dealing quite a bit of damage onto the halberdiers. Now the quarrelers, whom I brought 3 or 4 of, are firing in. I've also got, holy shit, never mind. Let's forget about the commentary. Let's look at the boom boom. The miner is going to charge downhill onto halberds or halberdiers here, and it's just going to be an all-out charge from all angles. For some reason, the blasting charges pop right in front of the miners instead of traveling where they needed to be. The gyrocopters on the far side just firing in from behind, but I completely forget about. I didn't even see this Reichsguard and 1 Demigryph brought by my opponent. I'm just trying to focus on getting charges with all of my units. The miners against the swordsmen, let's try and see how the miners do. They lose very quickly, and that's because of that poor melee defense and poor melee attack. I'm going to charge in with my hero, generic grudge ponderer. He doesn't really bear grudges. He just thinks about the grudges that have been dealt to him, and he considers whether he needs to bear them or not. So he's going to help out in the main line. The halberdiers are winning out against the miners, and that's pretty strange. That shouldn't happen, actually. But the miners with blasting charges have actually cleaved through one of the halberdiers with the help of my gyrocopters with brimstone guns. They're now firing into what looks like Karl Franz, or it's Balthazar Gelt on a Pegasus, and he's dropping spells and dropping bombs onto my units, and he's doing a lot of these area effect spells, which seem to be pretty effective, it looks like. These are dwarf warriors with great weapons. They're taking a lot of damage. He's got a witch hunter and a light wizard or something like that, and his Demigryph knights have cleaved through my quarrelers. Even though they're firing onto them, the 120 armor is going to prove very useful against the light and against the crossbows, which don't really have much of armor piercing damage. Miners with blasting charges standing firm but not really doing too much. The miners with blasting charges here are fighting up against the handgunners, and they should win, but they actually have very similar amounts of melee capabilities compared to the regular handgunners. I don't know why I decided. I thought that look, man, I didn't really put much thought into this army. Let me be clear. The Reichsguard now fighting against my quarrelers and my master engineer, who is helping out with the cannon with the grudge bear. The grudge bear is still throwing, grudge thrower or whatever the fuck it's called. Still throwing, catapulting some of its books or whatever it throws, and it looks cool, but I don't think it really does too much damage. Expensive artillery, relatively expensive, but for what they do, it's not great. There's a lot more of these molten things dropping down from the sky. The miners with the blasting charges don't really like it. Some of them have caught the handgunners, and they're doing slow damage. The witch hunter is targeting my general. I believe my general is not doing very well. I think he's already lost and he's routing now. Yeah, I think he's routed. General Generic has routed off the field. But Balthazar Gelt is not doing well either. He's trying to rout, he's wavering. And now I'm just targeting with my gyrocopters to try and get him off the field. My miners here are not doing great. I mean, this is a prolonged engagement that favors me because his handguns could be very useful against my heavily armored units, but all of my miners have lost, and the Reichsguard has done really well. And of course, the Demigryph Knights is going to be such a pain in the ass unless I try and turn things around. But I don't really have the units to turn things around. I brought a main line of basically just cheap infantry, and I thought my numbers would overwhelm this very kind of elite heavy Empire army. A couple of great swords, some Reichsguard, Demigryph Knights. It was a bunch of expensive units, and he didn't manage to bring too many of them. But he's made use of the terrain very well here. They're running through the forest, and my quarrelers with their crossbow bolts can't really hit the Reichsguard while they come into charge against them. Really don't like the lag. I need to get that new graphics card ASAP. My gyrocopter here is chasing after his Balthazar Gelt, or his general, and that's basically done. Hold on, you guys. Right, so great swords now have they've basically surrounded and killed off the miner. I wasn't really microing with these gyrocopters here. They're taking unnecessary damage from these handgunners. I tried to come in with to try and drop some bombs on the handgunners, but it's going to be useless. I've basically lost this. There's too many units for me to really fight against. My gyrocopters are doing well, and they're doing slow damage to the demigryphs, but it's going to take so much more. It's got a warrior priest, which is a unit that I haven't seen before. The pace of this battle means that I can't really focus on everything that's going on, which is kind of a pity. Miners with blasting charges firing into the handgunners, and then my miners trying to charge in, but the handgunners are just slaughtering them, and they turn tail. All of the dwarves have pretty decent leadership, but that's not going to mean much if you're going to bring just a spam of cheap units. It doesn't really work. I thought it would, because even the mid to elite units don't really work out too well for the dwarves. But yeah, it was an experiment that didn't prove to be too useful. Maybe more, same number of miners with blasting charges, maybe just 3 of them, and then remove the miners and get some of the slightly better dwarf warriors with great weapons or something like that, even though this dwarf warrior didn't really do too much. Anyways guys, hope you enjoyed this quick battle, and stay tuned for more. Peace.